Everything we do is VCCryptoNation at Gmail. You get a hold of us if you have any questions. But let's dig into here and get you guys squared away. So step one, okay, this is Crypto 101, right? The first thing when you do Crypto 101 is how to get yourself set up, which is very easy. You go over to here and you go to VCCryptoNation, right? .com. If you don't know, you can help yourself out there. And you know, this is, like I said, guys, this is all education, simply for education purposes, right? So scrolling through here, I'm just checking out. This is what I do, just watching what I'm doing. Account creations, click a box, that simple. And there you go. There's a welcome video that I watch. After watching video, this is the first step, right? There's a first step here. Then there's a step 2, right? And then etc., right? Now, that is how to step what you're doing. Now, the second part of this, guys, is understanding that once you have the Crypto 101 and any questions on there, everything is VCCryptoNation at Gmail, etc., right? And this is all found on our TikTok. If you go to our TikTok right here, it's right there. See? It's the very first thing in there. That's the link that we have on our TikTok. We love TikTok. This is strictly education and for educational purposes. So now let's dig in here and go over the 2 things that you have to understand. There are strategies and systems, okay? Strategies are all these different ways to trade, which is Elliott waves, support and resistance, blocks, right? So you have volume blocks, you know, etc. But what they really all do is, whether you have blocks or Elliott waves, right? But blocks, Fibonacci's, and support and resistance are 3 things that literally do the same thing. They show you a level of support, right, being a full block, or a level of support by being a line, right? You can see here. These blocks are simply sitting on previous support and resistance, as you guys can see here. So you see these blocks, all these blocks are just part of channels that were previous support and resistance, right? Support, resistance, and then support and resistance, right? Elliott waves will match up with these support and resistance. So if I went over here, all depending on where you were at that time. Let me see if I have my Elliott waves open. I don't. I will put some Fibonacci's here. I'm at Fibonacci's. I'm going to put in a Fibonacci. And now when I put my fibs in, I have to create some settings here real quick. So I like to extend right, labels positions to the right, and transparency background 100, because I don't like to see lines. Okay. So now, if I take a look at Fibonacci's, right, you can see all these Fibonacci's are here, and those eventually be, you know, they're lining up with support and resistance. So blocks, Fibonacci's, support and resistance always end up pretty much in the same scenario as being just support and resistance. So that is, you know, strategies, right? Strategies are just different ways to trade. Whether you're trading Elliott waves, support and resistance, Fibonacci's, etc. But they pretty much all say the same thing, right? Whether, and even patterns. Most patterns are just simply patterns inside of the Elliott waves that hit the support and resistance. It's all the same at the end of the day. So that is strategy. So you have to pick your strategy, find your strategy, decide what strategy you're going to lose. Or use. So 59 people watching, man. Join in, hit ones in the chat. Don't forget to share. Let's like this. We need to get to 100,000 likes, and we're going to give away something, right? I don't know what to give away for you guys. Number 2 viewer badge, Andy. It's all about the base code. Well, you like base, Andy? Is that what you're saying? You like that? You like the crypto base? Base. All right. So once you have the strategy, which is normally the basics: support, resistance, etc. Now you have to decide, this is where it becomes important, right? Strategy, most strategies are, that's why most strategies work, because they have the same thing in common. They pretty much trade off of what most people trade off of, even though there are multiple strategies. One guy might be doing support and resistance. One guy might be doing support and resistance. One guy might be doing Fibonacci's. One guy might be doing block orders. But they all tend to be the same type of scenario, where they end up in the same scenarios, right? And even Elliott waves, right? Wave 1, wave 2, because Elliott waves are simply based on, something breaking out of a resistance, retesting as support, and then going up, right? So all these strategies pretty much fall into the same category. But then it comes down to, what it really comes down to is, what's the system that you use for the strategy that you're getting into to be profitable, right? Because strategies are simply ways to trade, right? Strategies are all the same, right? When you figure that out, you'll see all these things are pretty much the same scenario, right? So what we have here, what we did is we created one indicator, right? And it's this indicator down here, right? And this indicator is a very simple indicator. It is a price action volume tracking indicator, right? And this indicator is called when we click on it here, you can see it is settings. We'll click on it, right click. It is the VC Making Trading Easy Moon Volume Tracker, right? So what it's doing is it's tracking the volume and price action, right? It's the only thing that matters, right? So no matter what support, resistance, Elliott waves, Fibonacci's, etc. that you're trying to trade, at the end of the day, or order blocks, the only thing that matters is, this is what I've said for 15 years, and it is real simple. Volume is king. Why? Because VC said so. Period, right? Volume is king because I said so. And that's just the way it is. And until you understand that and get that through your head, then you're not going to be successful at what you're trying to do, because you're not understanding the overall, right? So we're going to pop in here and take a look on the overall. So the first thing for us is we take a look at the daily, right? So once you have a strategy, right, and this is part of a strategy, you go over here, and part of your strategy is to look at how you're deciding what's a trade, right? That's a strategy. Strategy is, okay, one strategy for us is on the daily time frames. We like to trade the longs once we get a daily moon, right? Or the daily comes off the bottom. And I'll show you a kind of version of that. This is called the relative strength index. And you can see right here the relative strength, two moves, right? So one is the breakout, right? Like the Elliott waves. We like to see the retest, which happens right here. And then that's where we start looking for the option for a long position. Okay, that is a basic format there, right? So, and that follows very simple logic with everything else in the market. And I'll put that arrow there so we can take a look at that later. And that's a very simple thing that once you see that, you start to look for, longs in that position. So currently, the daily at that time, which was February 2nd, showed that there would be long positions coming in until the daily kind of reached the top of 100 on the RSI before it got exhausted, which it's getting there about now. So normally once it gets exhausted, it can stay up there for 2 or 3 days depending on where you are. So it looks like this week we'll have the snowball effect of it, where it pushes kind of through, and then we got to see a pullback at some point here where the daily will get weak. But that is a strategy to go long. So there you go, you have it right there. The next part of that strategy is also, let's say that you're looking for a green moon, right? Which the green moon strategy hits right here. This would be another entry point to where you can get in longs. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to turn this green so that we know that that's the green daily moon, and I'm just going to write in there settings. This is the daily moon, right? And that way we know that's the daily moon that went off there. And now we know at that point we have the momentum and volume that we need for long positions, right? I hope that makes sense. Welcome in, Jan. All right, guys, listen, man, if you found this live and you're hanging out on this live, it's probably because, you know, something's going on where you have, you know, hit a level where getting ahead and making things happen in your life might be a scenario where you're looking to get in that position, okay? So now, here's strategies that are happening. These are strategies, right? So let's go down here, take a look at these strategies and see how that played out, okay? Very simple, very easy to do. So first thing is, we can see here that double wave move on the, what they call the RSI, stochastic RSI, has an entry point here. And then we have the moon entry, which is here. And I'm going to turn that one green, right? These are two strategies, okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the rest of this because we already have the RSI information. We already have the information that we need for the relative strength index. And we have all that squared away. I'm going to turn up my little music a little bit here because I like to hear that beat a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I like that. Let me see. Let me see if I got my other. Now, TikTok, these are all self-produced tracks. So don't take it personal. These were actually made inside our studio. We own the rights to them. So don't get too excited there. We give full permission to use our music. Let's go. All right. Yeah. Let that be. Let that. All right. So now, what I'm gonna do here is just take a look at all this, and you know we can see what's going on. So here is your RSI strategy, right? So I'm gonna put that in there for you. So that is the RSI daily 3-wave bottom, meaning that at that time, the bottom had hit, it went up, it came back, it retested. So that's the third wave up, right? So that's going to be the third wave up. So that puts you in a position up here, right? This green mint one, remember, this is the daily moon long, right? That's our indicator telling us that that's the time to get into our daily. I love them horns, man. You know what's a good one too? This golden hip hop right here. Listen to this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This that chill. This that chill trade music. All right, so these are two strategies that you can use to make a decision to trade. Okay. Now, as we come along during these moves, they're going to be support and resistance, right? So you can add these support and resistance into these trades. And as you can see here, there are also order blocks, right? Now, we had an order block up here that you see that was created, where the ideal of an order block strategy is that once it breaks below the order block, it will then retest the order block And if it touches it and rejects there, that will give you the opportunity for a short position, which is what we're seeing right now. So that is another strategy, right? And the reason why I did it this way is just to show you the strategy on the top side of this, right? So most people, like, we don't need an order block to make that decision. What we normally have is a top, a wave down, a wave bounce, and then that's called the double top, and then we'll see that come down. So that's where, you know, strategies, depending on what strategy you're running, is going to give you nice, and that's going to give you the strategies for what you're doing inside of, you know, your market. Now over here, same scenario. What we have here is this. We have a breakout from an order block. I'm going to turn this yellow. We have a retest of the order block, which, just like the other way, is supposed to basically get yourself a move to the top side, right? Now, it does hit and retest again here, falls back to here, and then finally it holds its position on the lower side, has a breakout, right? So now normally after that fight and that breakout, you would be looking for the retesting of the order block somewhere, which it does here. Then from that retest, you would actually got bought. It would have pulled you back up, right? And those are the trades and strategies. But now, you know, without that wick, what you would be doing is you'd be waiting for the strategy to hit somewhere in here, which is basically retouch the order block again, right? And you can see right here, it did retouch the order block, which would have put an order in here to go up, which you would have lost. And then the order block also has where it broke through, and then, you know, you would have probably got liquidated, or not liquidated, but your stop loss probably would have hit on that order block. And then, you know, normally when it breaks through, you look for a retest, and then you look for it to go the other direction. So that's why, you know, depending on your strategies, you know, these things can go either way. Just know that strategies are normally an average of, you know, 60% on the high. So 50%, you know, average, 45, 50%, 70% with a good market, depending on you know, market conditions. But in reality, they're just 50-50, okay? So strategies are just 50-50. And this is where you have to implement, you know, things into your strategy called confirmations, right? How do we, what's up, Z baby? So confirmations of strategies is what you need, and this is where most people are going to, you know, lack. If you guys are in here, don't forget to share the live so we can get, you know, rolling in here. We want some people to come up. I want some people to hop in and get the opportunity to talk here and cover some things that we're doing, right? So right now, I mean, strategies are just 50%, and they're always going to be 50%. This is where, you know, professionals are different than retail, right? The guys who understand that everything is 50-50, right? And sometimes, you know, be honest with you, they're more like 30-50. You got to realize every strategy is based on market conditions, and market conditions can go either way. Most of the time, you're going to be 3 out of 10 on your strategy, and maximum on average 5 out of 10. And you have to understand that that's strategies. The person who understands that makes a decision or figures out a way, right, or finds someone who understands how to improve those odds. And this is called confirmations. Confirmations are ways to tell whether your strategy is correct or not correct. And this is where you have to find strategy or confirmation strategies to improve your trade strategies that you're currently trying to take advantage of. Okay, so with that being said, let's take a look here and go into a little more of what we mean by confirmation strategies, right? So a confirmation strategy, now that we got all these arrows drawn out, I can simply go to my moon indicator, and on here, for a clearer opportunity on my daily trade, I simply go down to a 4-hour position, right? Now on the 4-hour position, you can see here that we have these lower sections here, right? Now this is negative volume. This white line here represents the 0 line, okay? This is the 0 line, right? Everything above it, right? Everything above it. Let me see if I can put that somewhere on the in the middle. Middle. Center. All right, that's the 0 line, okay? Which means everything above it is positive, everything below it is negative, right? That's the 0 line, right? So what you want to do here is buying, if you're going long, theoretically and strategy wise, you would want to purchase everything at what we call buying the bottom, right? Which is the lowest part of this opportunity. And to maximize gains, strategy wise, you want to sell at the peaks of the volumes, right? So this is going to allow you to basically put yourself in a position where you are doing the best for you possible, right? So the 0 line is a strategy that is incorporated into more of a professional level style trading, right? Which means that when the volume has been sucked out or the liquidity has been sucked out the most, that will allow for opportunities for big money market makers and people who actually move the market to pick up the trade at the lowest possible prices, which increases the odds of profits. So when you look at the 0 line, you want to look for points where profit was, hit in, in the lowest areas. So this gives you the biggest opportunities for success. So this is the 4 hour. So let's take a look at the 4 hour. So I'm going to show you here. So there are a couple things that you can look at, right? So first of all, you have the situation here. After a long, you can see here you had a pull. Wave 1, wave 2, and then this is normally wave 3 area, right? So this right here would be the first wave 3 bounce that you could consider. The second one is after the next move where you see the push up. You see there's another pullback here. Same scenario. It bounces. And then wave 3 pull down, just like Elliott waves, right? Creates the scenario again of a possible low volume entry, which would be right here. And then finally, right, you have the weakest bounce up, which was here. And that created another pullback, another bounce, and then a final pullback. And then what we have here is, you see have a green moon, right? This is the 4 hour moon. So this right here, I'm going to turn this one green. This is the 4 hour moon. Now I want to go over this. Is so 4 hour moon. Okay. I love just grooving, guys. I love just, y'all feeling that music? It's just, yeah. Don't forget to share that live, guys. Shane, what up, man? Yeah, share that live. Let's dig in, guys. Get a little more excited, guys. You gotta give me some love, man. You gotta share the live. Get out there, man. But here, so that's the 4 hour long, right? Now, let me explain the strategy here, right? The strategy is there's a pullback, long opportunity. The second long opportunity is here, right? And then this is the third one, opportunity here. So let's take a look at the chart real quick, and I'm going to put these up. So this was the first one. This was the second one. And then we have the 4 hour moon right here. All right. Now we have the daily. Now we have the 4 hour, right? And now over here we have the first, the second, and then the 4 hour moon on the third, right? So now let's get back to the chart here and let's take a look at how this has a strategy built into it. And now we can take a look at like how this plays out, right? So strategy wise, the first pullback is normally going to give you an area, right? Normally gives you an area to look at and to look for a recovery, a bounce, a retest, right? All these strategies, right? And you can see here there's an order block here. Now normally the order block strategy once again would be to break out. See how this order block's right here? See that order block right there? See that order block? The normally would be once it breaks out of the order block, you would wait for it to retest the order block, which happens here, and then that would be a long, right? So once again, that strategy went through, came back, tested, and then on the pullback of the volume, we can see that that was that first pullback after that volume. Normally, you know, depending on profits, prior levels, stuff like that, you know, you're going to get a push up and then a continuous drop. But this is where market conditions, you know, when you do your due diligence, market conditions are what really matter here, right? Where's the money? Where's the volume, right? Things like that, which are what we're looking for here is the confirmation strategies to basically let you know what direction the market is going, right? We have a saying in the Discord, right? Is that when we know what something is supposed to do, and it doesn't, then we know what it will do, right? So order blocks. So what's up, baby? All right, to get these order blocks, you can use this indicator here. All right, it's called volumized flux charts, volumized breaker blocks by flux charts. So this is just a free order block that you can, you know, use to kind of like I said, it just gives you something to look at. It's another strategy ideal. But like I said, every strategy is 30 to 50%. You can say 30 to 60 if you want. This is where you have to learn confirmation strategies to maximize your strategies that you are trading. Okay? So let's go ahead and finish this up real quick so I can move on to the next part of this. So we can see that the block failed to break out. And then we can see here that the order block, once it fails to break out, you lose that trade. But then what happens is here is you get into a situation where the order block, after it does that, it fails. And you can see right here where it fails, that it then breaks through the order block here. Right, this is where it breaks through. Let's open that up a little bit. So now we're taking a look at this order block, and then we can see right here that the order block then breaks the order block here. And when it breaks down, the next strategy is that you would put the next order for a short here. And then you would play that short position there, see? And then you would play that short position there, right? Now, and as you can see here, our entry position is actually calling for that entry here. At 11,615. So this is why I'm telling you, like, when you make trades or have a strategy. Alf, what up, brother? Alfie's in the house. What up, Alf? You bastard. How are you, man? Alf in the house, bro. How you doing, brother? You good, man? How you feeling, bro? So you can see, like, when you have these strategies, you know, when they don't do what they're supposed to do, you have to then know what it's going to do, which is the opposite of what you thought originally. So this is where good man, good man. Yeah, been a minute, man. I mean, you know, we're rocking and rolling, doing our thing, brother. Just going over, you know, strategies, and then more importantly, you have to have, you know, confirmations for your strategies, right? So when something doesn't go the way that you think it's going to go, well, then you know the way it will go. So you got to be prepared to change direction and follow your strategies, right? So how do we, you know, confirmation of this, right? So let's take a look at our 4 hour here. So we see our first thing here is that we have a 4 hour first move down here, which when that happens, right, you see this right here, right? Remember, this was our 4 hour move here, right? Which was after a 2 moves, right? This move came in, which is kind of like, let's make it, we'll make it yellow, because those are the moves that are supposed to bring some type of bounce, some type of, you know, movement there, right? So you can see that all these moves here with a little bit of the confirmation are easily seen or manipulated, where they could be seen as possible bounces or retest, right? So it's very tricky, right? To get your confirmations correctly, right? And that's what you got to do, man. You got to get your confirmation correctly. Where's Alpha? Are you in there, man? Let me see. Let me refresh this. I don't know James. Do I know James? James, do I know you, bro? So this is why when you're doing your strategies, having confirmations are the most important thing to have here, right? And that'll allow you to, make your decisions that you want to do a little bit clearer. And you have to start developing these steps of strategies, then not just a strategy, but then the process of confirmations of your strategies, right? So that's why, it takes a little bit of time. And you have to build a strategy that you're going to use. Then you need to tweak the strategy that you're using. Then you need to have confirmation for the strategies, man, which allow you to kind of like implement steps that make it more successful for you, right? Very, very simple. All right, so let's take a look here on these two moves, where this here is showing the volume is coming back, which looks like it's going to be a possible bounce here, which makes sense because there is an order block there. Then on the next move here, you can see that we have this move here. This is the second move that's supposed to bounce, right? And a lot of times, kind of a rule of thumb, right? Kind of a strategy that we have. Let's see what we got here. Kind of a strategy that we have is that we always want a second move, right? A second confirmation. Yo, Alf, I sent you an invite, dog. Did you get that invite? So a second move or confirmation is all right, bro. Peace, brother. Good to see you, man. I'm glad things are going good for you, man. We always like to have a second move, right? So kind of like confirmation. So this first one here from the 0 line, it says that there's possible longs coming, but we want to get confirmation on that move. So what that would kind of be like is having a breakout happen, a retest, right? So let me kind of explain to you. Most people, right, 80% of traders, retail traders, need to have a breakout from resistance. They then put their orders on the support line, which then is how they get the next move. So you got to realize that you want to trade with the sentiment, and you want to trade with the people that are, the sentiment. So sentiment is RSI, so relative strength index, right? That just simply means that you're trading with the masses on how they feel about a particular, trade, right? And trading with the sentiment is you're trading with the masses, which increases your opportunity for success because you're doing what most people are going to do. And in this scenario, most people, 80% of traders, need to see a breakout, then a retest, and that's where they decide to get into the trade. So right here, this very first move here, where we see the volume hit the bottom, right here, what we'd want to see is we'd want to see that repeat, meaning that we would want the volume on the 4-hour to go positive against the 0, then pull back down again, right? And then that is where we would start to say this is number 2, right? That's number 2 right there. That is where we would decide that if we were going to take a long position, it would be somewhere at that point. Okay? Somewhere at that point is where we would decide that we were going to go for something like a long position at that time, because that would be the second move, right? Does that make sense? Strategies are always about one move, retest, entry, third move is the biggest move, okay? Very simple. So this wave right here is the one that we would be looking at, right? So how does this wave play out? So let's go take a look there. So now, in this particular situation, right before this move kind of comes in, we do see that we have a pull down that happens and breaks through the support right there. And then based on the order block strategy, when it bounces up, you'd put your order on that bottom order block, and then the trade you would be making is the rejection of that order block, giving you this trade here. Okay? Very simple. Once that trade happens, you can see here that we're getting confirmation of a possible long position. Okay? Now, see this little white line here is the RSI D 3-wave bottom, right? So this also is confirming at this point here that the daily right here is now confirming its first confirmation of a reversal, right? Which is where the 3-wave on the 3-day hits bottom, right? Which would mean if we want confirmation of that, what would have to happen? We would expect a bounce. Then we would expect a pullback. Then we would enter at that position, and that is the long position that we would take. And then we would be looking for it to retouch the bottom of the support of its current area, or even a double top, which is here. So these are two areas that we would be looking for, right, for this to touch, which happens to be the bottom of the order block or the double top of the last previous high. Right? So as we go along here, we can see it did end up finally catching its bottom target, and then went back into its rejection, which is basically building its momentum, right? So once that happens, understanding that once people take profit, there's going to be a rejection. And more than likely, it's probably going to touch the order block that was previously down here, because what this is creating here is just like what everyone else is looking at. It's called a channel, right? That's all it is. It's just a channel. And this is creating the 4-hour channel that we're looking at, right? And that is kind of where what we're trading right now is we're trading into that channel to have it pull back down into that area, right? But that is how we have a strategy that goes through there, and then you just have to use confirmations to your strategy. So confirmations to your strategy is really what you're going to use. Is really what you're going to use to find the best strategy entries, right? It's really, let me see. Inactivity, baby. All right, we're back. That was some inactivity on our live. So this is why, you know, looking at that short, yeah, thanks for the Go Popular, baby. That's where you're seeing that inactivity move right there of the traders. And pretty much what that means, right? So now that we have our strategies, we have some confirmation strategies, right? Now that's the way to kind of piece this together on your strategies, right? When one doesn't work out, right? Over here, this didn't work out. Then we went to the next one, which was when it did break through the bottom, there was a short position on the 4-hour that pulled down, which is basically just a liquidity grab, which means that when they're done grabbing liquidity, they're eventually going to turn it up, right? So it bounces, hits the bottom, takes a short. starts to go sideways, liquidity grab is where we see this big wick right here, right? So that's the liquidity grab. And then as we come across, we can see that we have these sections. This is simply the Fibonacci's, right? You can see the fibs here. That's support and resistance of this area, right? And then once they have that section kind of like carved out, right? So so the strategy here would be this. So you see the short come in, then there's a bounce, then there's the big short, right? So just like Elliott waves, what do we look for in Elliott waves, right? Elliott waves, we look for this, right? Just so everyone understands. Elliott waves go like this. There's wave 1, right? And wave 1 normally comes down, and once it comes down, there's a retracement or a bounce that's 50%, right? So this entire short was about 32%. So then 15% would be the bounce, right? So it'd be about there, right? Now notice that 50% is actually how far it bounced back up. I don't know if you guys knew that, but there you go. You see that bounce? So wave 1 creates wave 2, and then once wave 2 hits, then we get a bigger wave 3, which is this right here, see? That is an Elliott wave strategy playing out in front of you, right? So you have all these different strategies happening, and you know, if you're PM in 10 minutes, I can pop on. Yeah. If you're PM in 10 minutes, I can pop on. Yeah, I'm here, brother. So that's kind of what, you know, we're seeing here is that basis there of like the Elliott waves playing out. Because I know sometimes you guys will have the Elliott waves, and sometimes you'll see a bounce, and you might think that was the wave 2, because there is a small bounce here that a lot of people might got confused and be like, oh, that was the wave 2 bounce. Because it does create this next move here. But the problem is that, you know, in order for that to be a wave 2 bounce, right? Let's see, the original short kind of happens at this top level, and that actually, let's see the retracement here. So that ends up being about 11%, which means 5% right about there is the wave 2 action, which could fit there. I mean, that does kind of fit in there. So either way, you should have been playing either one of these bounces into the next play. So if you got that first wave 2, you did well. If you got that second wave 2, you did even better. So those are the strategies, right? So now it's like implementing strategy confirmations inside of these particular trades that are happening. Let's see what's going on in free chat. I know it's Sunday, so we're going to be on it a little bit. If we miss you today, guys, we will be hopping back on Monday and getting into this a little bit more detailed, simply because we're building, you know, strategies and so forth. So, all right. So, those right there, strategies that are happening in front of you. Understanding the strategies is what you have to kind of do first, is that all strategies are the same thing, right? So this is kind of like a breakout, a retest, and then a fall, right? Then a push up, and then this is a liquidity grab. Once you see a liquidity grab, right, you're going to look for wave 1 of the liquidity grab, which is the push up. You're then going to wait for a pullback of wave 1, right, which is here. And then support and resistance, right? You can see here the bottom candle right here is the support zone. And then you would be looking for a retest of that support zone right there. And then that would give you your entry position for your next move up, which would be wave 3. 1, 2, 3, right? So those are kind of like, you know, these trades and these elements. So the one thing that stays consistent is a 1, 2, 3. So the one thing that we teach in our Discord is that you focus on 3 moves, right? You focus for the first, the move that's showing you a reversal. Then the retest is the second move. And then the third move is your entry move, which is basically where the pullback or retest happens, and then you go with the momentum. And the reason why this is the best way to do it is because 1, 2, 3, those type of moves fall into what pretty much 80% of what everyone else is doing. Whether they're doing a breakout from resistance, retest support, and then going long, or the people are looking for wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, or the people are looking for confirmation of a reversal, then a pullback, and then the wave 3. So if you stay within, Reese, what up, man? If you stay within 3 moves as kind of like your mental, you have to see something happening, let it retest and show that it's going to hold, then get into the next move. If you stay inside of those type of things as a strategy to go a confirmation for all others to go with your other strategies, that'll just clear up where you'll feel that most things are going to play in that direction. So those will increase your odds of being successful for your strategy just by implementing those 1, 2, 3 inside your brain all the time. I'm looking for the third move, right? Just like I said over here, a lot of times on a 4-hour, I'm looking for the third move, which is, here's the first move saying that we're getting some volume. This is the second move, right? And we'll pull these up here. This is the second move telling me there's a possible long. And then on the third one, when it pulls back down, right, the third move happens to be the 4-hour moon long, right? So that's my entry right here, you see? So that came all the way around, but that created my entry. And that is where, the strategies that we use and everything that we're doing, right? That's my long. And then the simplicity is this, right? So this is my long right here. Now watch how this works. The 4-hour comes in, shows that move. When the 4-hour pulls back and starts to move up here, and I know that my next move is a moon long, right? Then I can play into that moon, and then when that one hits, that gives me the ability to get into my next trade, which is the daily long, which is right here. Now these opportunities, these two things, by having the 4-hour confirmation, right? Remember the 4-hour confirmation long, 4-hour moon long on the third move, that's giving me confirmation, which is then going into a daily moon long, which is going to be, remember, the bigger the time frames, the more volume there is, so the bigger the spike, right? I don't want to be in trades where I'm kind of doing this with my big money when I could put my $10,000, $5,000 bag into a big trade and get that opportunity to make more money with a lower leverage, less risk, better results. So that right there, guys, is the breakdown of all the strategies that are out there, how you need to be thinking, right? The next video I'm going to make is called systems. Strategies are important to understand because you have to have a strategy so that you can follow the same steps over and over. You should have 3 steps: a trade initiation, a pullback on the trade confirmation, and then a retest entry position, right, for your trade. And then those are your 3 steps. And then you need the confirmation strategy on confirming those 3 steps to how you enter that trade to take advantage of it, which would be going through the SIS strategy, finding the triple pullback, and then looking for the breakout of a block, retesting a block, or breaking out of support, retesting on support, right? Confirmations that allow you to be more successful. Here is my 4-hour R indicator, the 4-hour moon telling me there's a long, and then when it retests, I'm trading into the daily long, which gives me my best trade. So right there, guys, that is how to create strategies. Go back and rewatch this so that you understand that all of them come back to the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're doing Elliott waves 1, 2, 3. Support and resistance are going to be the same 1, 2, 3, and breakout and retest are just 1, 2, 3. They're all the same. So that's the strategy. Now you need to find the confirmation strategies in order to increase your odds of being correct when you decide to follow the strategies that you have inside your head. All right, guys. So other than that, I'm going to close it out. The next thing I'm going to do is go over systems, which is how systems work for how to take advantage of the strategies that you're using to get the most momentum, guys. All right. So good luck. God bless. Rewatch this video, get it right, and get your strategy down so you understand.